today we are going to be building a picnic table inspired condiment caddy to go with our giant barbecue cart that we built in the previous 2 streams. Then for next stream, we're going to take what we built today and roboticize it. Yeah, we're going to turn it into a robot that then is going to travel up and down our barbecue feasting table carrying all kinds of sauces. So you can eat your ribs, you can feast uninterrupted. You know, you don't have those people like, can you pass me the salt? Can you pass me the barbecue sauce? And it's like, no, get it yourself. I got like a mouthful of burger, ribs, barbecue chicken. You pick your favorite meat. So this is going to help us feast uninterrupted. So let me show you guys kind of like what inspired this portion of the build. But first, before we do that, say hi to all the people that have joined us. Dave Wells, Dave Beck, Kurt Benning. It's all the usual. We have a Blake Mai saying, hi, Rachel. Hi, back. And so it looks like, there's a ton of barbecue emojis going on. And of course, somebody brought the popcorn. Dave Wells brought the popcorn. I always see popcorn as kind of like a dessert. You know, I always like a good salty dessert to go with the sweet. So it's all a good combination. So let's get started. You see that I've got a whole bunch of pieces. Now I kind of pre-cut a lot of this and I kind of measured things and so we're going to see if it fits together. We've got a couple tabletop pieces here, which I started, this one right here, with the hole saw. We got some legs, some fine legs for our picnic table. And Rick Francis saying, hi, Rachel, love this shirt. Yes, this is like old school Transformers. Remember when they first came out? I was fascinated. I had to have all of them because I wanted to see exactly how they came and went together. So yes, I'm a huge Transformers fan. So Kevin Gard is saying Optimus Prime. I went through phases, I'm not going to lie. Of course, as a child, I started out as an Optimus Prime fan. Then through high school, as is always, I became a Megatron fan. Oh yeah, you go through all that teen angst, which, you know, for me was kind of lame, you know. A lot of people tend to blow things up that aren't that big of a deal. When you become an adult, you find out what real life is all about. And then I went back to being, you know, an Optimus Prime type of person, you know, hopeful, let's do some good. You take some beatings for your goodness, you know, but you don't stop being good. So more of an Optimus Prime person. So this is what inspired me. I really wanted to make a caddy. We're going to like put it on a platform or something, put wheels on it so it can be a robot and it can travel around. And we can always build our typical box rectangle caddy where you stick everything in. But then I saw this on one of the stores. It was either like an Etsy or an Amazon. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like a picnic table. That is so barbecue. And I love the like 1950s diner style ketchup and mustard. Of course, you can put your favorite barbecue sauce. It doesn't just have to be ketchup and mustard. The salt and pepper as well. You know, if you like a little extra on your pasta or potato salad, you know, gotta have them sides too. And so I really like this. And I'm like, I bet you we can build something like this instead of buying it. You know us, we're always going to try and build it instead of buy it. Although sometimes if we really mess up, then, you know, we'll just go out and buy it. But I think we can totally tackle this today. And Kevin Gard is saying, sacrilege, Optimus rules. Oh, so he is not liking the brief Megatron phase that I had. I respect that. And then Kevin Gard saying, maybe a cold storage for the cold condiments. Yes, so there are some cold condiments. We do have some shelves on our barbecue cart for where we can put ice type of storage for drinks and things like that. But we're also going to make sure that we cut holes big enough, not only for sauces, but for wine bottles, beers, and other adult beverages, and child beverages too. You know, the holes don't know what you're putting, you know, there. It can be food, drinks, adult food, and children's food, and pet foods too. Why not the pets get their own roving condiment cart? But something tells me they'll just knock it down. They're smarter than us sometimes, you know, they'll just knock it down and eat it all so it doesn't escape. So George Pappas saying, sorry I'm late, proceed. Well, see, we were thinking I was stalling this whole time till you got here. So now you're here and I'm going to start officially. So yes, that gets me thinking, Kevin. He's saying cold storage for the cold condiments. we might be able to rig something with this that we can add later, but it gets me thinking. We can definitely add some kind of border around to contain some kind of ice or cold substance. So based on this design, I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to start with mine a little bit bigger. Now remember, if it's a robot, it can't be gargantuan, because if you have a table, you want your meats to take, all the room. You don't want this giant robotic condiment caddy coming by and knocking everything over. So we need something that's big enough to store our favorite sauces, but not too big, And I thought this little picnic table is great. I think it's a little too small. I think I need more than ketchup and mustard. Some of us like hot sauce. Some of us like, sweet or Smoky Mountain type of barbecue sauces. Me personally, I prefer the smokier barbecue sauces versus the very sweet honey barbecue sauces. But to each their own. Barbecue sauce is barbecue sauce, so it's all good. So I thought my tabletop, I've already have 3 holes cut out, and these holes are each 3 inches in diameter. So that's going to fit your typical wine bottle, your typical beer can, Coke can, all of that. Also your typical round ketchup and condiment bottles will fit in this. The other thing it fits, interestingly, is like these types of cups. So if you have extra onions, extra, little toppings, you can put smaller cups, those little 9-ounce cups that you get on sides when you order out, they fit there too. So you can definitely have all kinds of like cool things that go around. The other thing is with the cups, you can fill them with different fruit if you want to do like a pancake breakfast style condiment caddy and have that syrup. So there's a lot of uses for these 3. So 3 versus kind of like what we have over here, still not enough. This is Gearhead Diva, people. This, we got to go bigger. And I may actually regret going bigger when we end up with a monster cart that then goes around the table, which is exactly what I said I don't want. But, sometimes you got to build what you don't want to really understand what you want. So if this one ends up being a little too big, that's okay. I can use it as a stationary cart for, other tables, other meals and things. So Beth Murrow is saying, what? Barbecue sauce is VVQ sauce. Oh, it's not. And Kevin Gard is saying, I don't know if you've ever had the Alabama white sauce, but damn, delish and must say cold to keep it fresh. Okay, it has eggs in it. Great on chicken. A white sauce? I have never seen a white barbecue sauce, and I'm going to have to look that up because I am super curious, and I do love to try different barbecue sauces. I have my favorites, but I always like to expand. So my idea for this, and I'll give you guys a much better view here, maybe kind of a better view. Let me move these guys out of the way, and you can see I have a plethora of different glasses, the one that protect your eyes. I guess these protect your eyes, but, lets me see as well. But the idea here is you see kind of a faint marking, and maybe I can bring you in. Yeah, let me bring you in a little bit. And so you see I have like a square cutout, and I thought for the more rectangular sauce bottles can fit in here, and this is 4.5 inches by 3 inches. And boy, did I have fun going through my whole fridge and just kind of taking an average measurements of all my favorite condiments to kind of come up with these whole sizes. So this is the 3-inch one. This little one here and here are 2 inches, and they're great for Tabasco sauce, little hot sauces, like the little A1 sauce bottles, also salt and pepper, just like we saw on this guy's. I really like the salt and pepper. Great for potato salad. So I went ahead and cut these out because we all know I rock certain tools. Other tools rock me, as in like they kick my behind. I'm not as good at using the hole saw, so I figured I'd spare you guys and start the cutouts. But you can watch my battle with these two, and then we're going to figure out a way to cut this square hole. Then we're going to seam these 2 pieces together, and this is going to be our tabletop. Actually, this kind of goes like this, because you'll notice this thinner edge. This is 1/2 inch, and then this is a 1 inch right here. And so those are, towards the edges. Now you'll immediately notice that when I arrange it like this, well, you kind of see where the seam is, Normally when I do this, I like to match colors like that. That way, when you seam them together, sand it down so there's no like gaps or anything like that, you can't tell. It just looks like one piece. But oftentimes as we prototype, we're not thinking as many steps ahead. And so I had already kind of drawn it this way. So I am just going to keep it this way. You know, the tiger stripes looks, you know, kind of neat. So, you know, we'll rock this. So Kevin Gard is saying, oh, Blake Mize is saying George's barbecue rules. I've had that. I love George's barbecue. So that is actually on my list of condiments. Kevin Gard is saying, do you have a plethora? Oh, indeed, I have a plethora of condiments. And Robert Alexander saying, definitely a spot for relish. We like relish in Ohio. Yes, and that's where this bottle comes in. Those relish bottles tend to be these square ones, you know, like the ketchup bottles, but sometimes they're round, so it can fit in either location. So I figure probably let's start with the hardest thing, which is cutting out the rest of the holes in this piece. Then we'll join them together and start putting the legs on this thing, and then figure out some kind of like cold storage. Because if you want to use it as a chilled wine or chilled beer type of caddy that goes around, well, we need a place to put ice. So let's get our little thinking caps on that based on this design. So think of where we would put kind of, you know, some ice. I'm gonna let you guys start your brain going on that. So let's set up, and I'm going to do it in the most Rachel way possible, which is not always the greatest way. But let's see if we can elevate this so I can cut into it. So I have some spare pieces right here. And we'll just kind of straddle him like this. No clamps or anything. You know, totally safe doing this. And so I have my 2-inch hole saw ready to go. And let me get myself ready to go. There we go. And let's see which view is better here for you guys. Maybe we'll start with this view, and then we'll rock out other views. Sometimes, you know, when you're cutting like this view is not always great because you kind of, you know, the drill's getting in the way. So let's do this guy. Well, everybody gets a view. We'll just like, you know, share all the views. So with this, all I'm trying to do, a lot of you guys know I don't go nuts measuring. A lot of what we build is very prototype based. Let's just see if it works. So if it's shifted a little bit, I'm not going to cry about it. Obviously, if this is for a customer or something like that, then yeah, I'd be going nuts to make sure that our drill is perfectly centered and all that. But just eyeballing it, it looks like it's pretty good. Yeah, famous last words. So let's go for it. All right, so we got part 1 done. Part 2 is the toughest, and usually I like to rock it back and forth a little bit to get it to cut a little faster. Whoop. Wants to run away. It's like, I don't want to be a part of this project anymore. I heard a crunch. You guys heard that? It means we're close. There we go. So we got one hole down, and let's see if I can get this little guy off of here. And Beth Murrow is saying, I have been learning how to use my router and made myself a router table. It would be useful in this project. Oh, indeed it would, definitely. Oftentimes, the way you build stuff for yourself is different the way you build stuff for you guys. You know, obviously you want to be able to see everything. Oftentimes I end up wanting to clamp things at the end of the table here, but then y'all can't see anything. You know, of course, if it goes wrong, I can be like, oh, it went perfectly well, you know, you don't know. So anytime I end up with these like little hole saw thingies, I keep them. They make awesome spacers. So if you just clean it up a little bit, I use them all the time, all kinds of thicknesses of wood. So I'm going to start hoarding them right there. And now, of course, you do get some with a hole saw on the other side. So I always like to start the cut on the pretty side because the underside tends to do this type of thing. Now, if you are able to match up, I found the best way to do this is match up this hole and draw another one in the exact same location. Start drilling here so you make that initial cut, and then turn it over and start drilling before it's gone through. That way you get smooth on both sides. you know, but that's a lot of work. Yeah, so I went ahead and just skipped that step. Yeah, I cheated. So I'm gonna start this guy here now. And let me put my hole saw back together again. It's like Humpty Dumpty. And that's cool. Beth Murrow has been learning how to use her router. You're ahead of me. I gotta get a router still. So that's definitely on the to-do list. So if anyone has any very cool hole saw tips, I would love to hear them. Like getting them to cut smoother, nicer, not do this type of thing. Probably a Forstner bit might be a better choice, you know, but I'm going with what I have for now. All right, number 2. And I'm gonna line it up, eyeballing it. And as we can see, we got it pretty good. I don't see any pencil marks. And we can see because it's slipped, I got a little gouging here, but nothing that can't be fixed with a sandpaper. I am using 1/4 inch Poplar board. Now, of course, Poplar's not as great against the outside elements like cedar or anything, but this is kind of the only 1/4 inch board I could find. And a good coat of polyurethane, we should be good. I'm going to just kind of cheat and bring this closer to me. That way I can kind of use more body parts to hold this thing. All right, so that went a lot easier. And I just figured out what creates this marring, which is interesting that it didn't do it with the 3-inch, and there's a reason for that. And it's this bracket right here. This bracket right here is causing this to mar like this. So we'll go ahead and sand that off, make it all pretty, so no one will know what even happened. So sometimes if you find you're having trouble getting this apart, just let it sit for a little bit, let it cool off, and you'll find that it comes apart pretty easily. So we have this. Let's see if I can do a little bit of sanding just to get the initial ickiness, you know, off. Let's see what this looks like. Let me move this out of the way. And so this is 80, a little aggressive, but you know, we'll start with that. And Dave Beck is saying the drill bit part will align the hole you started from the other side. Yep, and that's why I think if that's true, you don't have to go so nuts measuring. But I would have to get quite a few steps into it to realize that. So yes, Dave is I'm trying to like talk on top of the sanding, which I'm sure is super pleasant for you guys, but he is true. The hole would already be there, thus you're already aligned. So here I go again, complicating things for you guys. And Brian Palmer is here saying hi, Rachel. Hi, Brian. Nice to see you. All right, so we got most of it off. See, it's very, very barely noticeable. And so the other idea I had for when I've had to do hole saws on other things where you do get a little bit of fraying is using like cool bevels and things like that. But all I'm gonna do now is just take this sandpaper and kind of de-icky these holes. So one of the things, like why we're just kind of prototyping this out, is just to figure out if this card is going to be way too big. You know, I think the top part might be big, but the bottom might be small enough so it might be nimble enough to do the table. And of course, that's looking pretty good. So our holes up top look pretty good after the sanding. Here, you know, maybe not so great, yeah, but passable. It's going to be on the bottom. No one's going to see it, so I'll let it slide. So that's looking pretty good. Let's see if we can tackle this situation here with a jigsaw. So same thing. I think I'm going to use this situation right here. you know, super, you know, sturdy and all. And move some of this stuff out of the way. So let me set up our jigsaw here. Where did it go? So I got like a floor full of tools so I can conveniently step on as I talk to you guys like, you know, little Legos. Those are the worst to step on. And David Beck saying, de-icky, is that a new word? Yes. Yes, because you saw those holes. They were looking all scraggly and stuff and icky. I mean, there's no other professional term to use for that. And let's see. In order to start, I kind of need a starter hole so that way our jigsaw here can start. You know, otherwise we're kind of stuck. And I think I'll give you guys a better view because the jigsaw will cover everything there is to see about this project otherwise. So let's pick a drill bit here. I don't want anything too big, not to crack it. You know, maybe something like this. We can always go bigger, right? There we go. Yeah, so Silvio Jose has a really good tip. Just a tip, wouldn't it be better if you use a bench drill to do it? Yes, that I do not have. But yes, a bench drill, or if you just have a bench press, even better, which is how, if you watch any of the videos of people making their own picnic tables, that's how they do it. So not having that, we're improvising. But yes, that is a great tip. And Beth Merle says if you use a scrap piece of wood on top of the wood you are making the hole, it will help eliminate the marring. Yes, that would have especially been helpful on this, especially with this little bracket here. That would have marred the other fake wood and not our true wood. So very, very true. So Dave Beck is saying no Hulk smash jigsaw to start it. I know, it's quite disappointing. No, not this time. So yeah. We're going boring jigsaw this time around. So looking at the blade, I probably need something a little bit bigger. See, I get to talking to you guys. I'm not paying attention to my own stuff. So let's see here. There we go. Maybe this will be, might be just big enough. Let's see if this is better for you guys. So I have my starter hole here. Now, the reason I didn't do it too close to the edge is that I haven't decided yet if I want to try and curve this edge, you know, or if we want to make it square. So I figured we can always try and curve it, and if we totally screw it up and it looks horrible, we can cut it off and make it square. That's the easy part, you know, so it's okay. We can, we just gave ourselves permission to really mess this up. So let me think of how I want to do this. It's going to be a little bit awkward to do it in a way you guys can see and I can actually work. But, you know, we've done worse around here. So, and Beth Morrow is saying, this is great. I saw your notification. I never get it in time. Yes, you know, I'm trying to put these up earlier and earlier. But I also blame those cursed algorithms. They're just terrible. And yes, cutting towards oneself or hand is a terrible idea, you know, but I'll see if I can do this a little bit better. The little dusties get in the way. Right about there. There's a couple jagged edges we'll probably have to clean up, and because that's our edge, so I want to try and maybe, I don't know, maybe we can curve it just a little bit. Maybe I'll go a little bit closer. There we go. And let's see how we're going to do this one. Is a little trickier. but we'll do it. Perhaps I can cut towards you guys now. Yes, you're the victim. You should clamp that wood to the supports. Yes. Let me do this whole. Now, the only thing with clamping the wood to the supports is then you get rocking. So really, the way to do this, like for real in a shop, is to do this, right? And then clamp it down this way, right? But then you guys don't see anything, or do you? Can you see it? Oh no! Can I back you guys up anymore? Oh no! So we don't have that much more to do. I've certainly cut much smaller pieces than this. We have survived. Famous last words, right, people? But awesome tip by Rich. So yes, this is a little janky, you know, but it'll get us through. I'm actually liking the square a little bit better now that I did that. Yeah. So let me come towards you guys now. And that might be better for coming towards you. Get this out of the way. All right, we're almost done our sides. We're still aligned. If you try and curve it too much, it gets angry. So I was trying to be a little ambitious with it. There we go. There we go. Have a nice line there. So far, this is kind of the only problem line that we have, and I'll give you guys a closer look. And now I can go back and do this side. Let's get a little closer. All right, kind of tough to see with all the little dusties flying around. And Michael's saying, as for clamping, it can be handy, but honestly, to save time, I'd probably work without the clamps. Yeah, like anytime we can do clamps, we do it here. Obviously, the biggest thing that I always struggle with is giving you guys the view, but being able to work, you know, as well, because obviously this would be much better over here, or clamping it on the side here and doing it invisible like, so you guys don't see anything. But then that wouldn't be any fun. So let's see. We have most of our sides done here. We got this side. I just got to clean up this little mess right here, and then we just got to do a nice straight cut here, and then one more cut, and we're done. So in order to do that, I think I'll turn it this way, and then go this way and finish this clean cut right here. So it may not be all the way square. It might be kind of mostly square, you know, our box here, but that'll work. There we go. So now we just have one more side to do, and this one's coming right at you. All right, when it does that, it's like you're trying to curve me way too fast here. So, start over, kind of in the back here, do a shallower curve. All right, so we got our middle, and it looks not really rectangular, but we're gonna fix that. Let's go ahead and fix that. So now when you have so very little material, you do get kind of a little bit of rocking. So for this, maybe I can kind of lean to give this foot a little something to stand on, right? So he's not so rocky. I need like a fan or something, just like blowing the little dusties away. All right, so I think we have one more cut. Yeah, one more cut. Kind of like this. Now, this is kind of an awkward cut, but we'll try it. All right, so let's see what we got here. It's mostly rectangle. I'll bring it up for you guys to see. So we got some issues, you know, minor ones. We have like a little bit of a wobble here. We have some, you know, some jagged edges here, but nothing that we can't really, you know, fix up with a little bit of sanding. And I'm just going to use the edge of the blade of our jigsaw to kind of clear up that blip here that we saw. But this gives us kind of like the basic shape. All right, so just using the edge of the blade, we went ahead and cleared up that problem. So really the only trouble area I see is here. So let's see, that means I'm gonna have to cut our box a little bit wider because I went off course right here. Just, you know, started getting a little too excited. So I'm gonna put our helper block here just to give it something to hang on to. And Carl James is calling it character. Yes, I'm going to agree with you. We're adding character to this. And Michael is saying whenever I use my jigsaw, I always feel like I'm fighting with it, even with a new blade. Sometimes, yes. And also some of it is design feature. Like for mine, the speed controls down here. And if you're holding so many times, I bump the speed control. And during certain materials, if the speed gets too slow, you get that jackhammer type of effect. And it's like really annoying. And so I have to remember to stop and check the speed, because oftentimes that's what it is. All right. All right, much smoother, guys, there, because you guys totally can't see anything. Good job, Rachel. There we go. Now you can see. But yes, we've smoothed out this end right here, and then it gets a little jaggy here. So we're going to try and smooth that out now. And let's see, what's the best way to do it? Probably like this, and which means I got to push it a little further up, you guys. So you might see some of my head getting all up in your way. And I'm going to switch and do this. All right, so I did a good cleanup with our blade, and it looks pretty clean. So now we can, you know, get this a little bit cleaner with our sandpaper. And I'm going to start with our 80, and I think I'm going to go in by hand. Now, of course, if we were building like a production type of thing, we would spend a lot of time sanding this thing. And Beth Murrow has a very true piece of advice, because I find the same thing. If you put the pressure on the palm of your hand instead of more forward, it cuts much smoother. Yes, and push a little more down towards the material so it doesn't want to like kick back up on you. So that is true. Just like a good square center of gravity type of grip on it is much better. So for us, I'm going to sand this to the point of looks good enough, you know, and then we'll move on. Of course, for my own home projects, you find yourself spending a whole day sanding. And as much as I would like to show you guys that, I know I am like so mean. I'm depriving you of watching like paint dry, glue dry, sanding for a whole 2 hours. I mean, I know I'm awful, right? So I think something like this kind of gives us a good, working prototype to start with. And by sanding, we kind of rounded out our corners, which is pretty nice. Just going in, making sure it's all pretty smooth. And we have a little hump here. Let's see if I can take care of that. There. Pressure on that hump. And it's gone. So let me give you guys a closer view. This is what we ended up with. So this is the top side. It looks mostly rectangular. I'm very proud of myself for doing this. A couple, just typical, problem areas for having hand tools and cutting this yourself. Heck, it turned out pretty good. A couple marring situations going on here because of our bracket. And Beth had a great idea for that, using an extra piece of wood on top. So it mars that and not your piece. And our bottom here looks pretty good. Let me grab that. So let's get these two gluing together, and then we'll put them aside and start working on the bottom part of our legs. So Beth Moreau is saying, awesome. Yes, no, it ended up looking, pretty good for the tools we have at hand, right, people? So I'm going to move these aside. I don't think we need them. And if you look at this entire situation here, it is covered. And so trying to glue on this mess is kind of not great. Kind of not great. That's the professional terminology. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of cleaning with a hand vac. So it's about to get a bit loud in here. So watch your microphones, people. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, and vacuum. Now some pretty exciting vacuuming right there. It's funny. I'm not as excited to do that for my own house as I am my own workbench, right? I'm always like excited to get it cleaned up. So let's put these two pieces together. And if I recall, I had said I cut these two kind of skinny like that. Now, of course, this would be nice, much nicer if I just went like that. Because look, the wood looks like one piece once we, seal this gap. But I like the fact, see how skinny that is? I had purposely designed it so that way the 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch, which you can see I had to overcut for my jagged edges. So it's not quite a 1/2 inch, but we're going to call it a 1/2 inch. And it looks more tiger stripy, but that leaves an inch of material here and an inch of material here for our tabletop. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue in between the seams, put them together, and then put this whole thing aside. So here's our glue, and let me get the ickies off of it. We got our glue crunch on the top. There we go. Glue crusties are off. And Pythagoras would give you an A. All right. So it's always getting good to get A from notable figures, So let's see if I can not over glue this too much like I normally do. Am I on the right side? Oh, I am. Oh my gosh, guys. I thought I was going completely the wrong side, which happens more times than not here. So just making sure that... Actually, this is the nice edge. Oh, guys, I get to chatting and look what happens. I have to glue everything backwards, right? The inch side, pencil marks. I see pencil marks here. So yes, they are the same side. And now one of the things I noticed with this wood, like we did while building our cart, is that the wood is a little bit warped. And so one side of the table is straight and the other is kind of like this. So as I put this aside, I'm going to weigh it down with certain things, that I can find. I don't think we need our drill, so I'm going to put the drill on one side like this. And I know you guys can't quite see, but I'll put this on this side and this. So that should weigh it down enough. And then I'm going to take, I didn't forget it this time, a little bit of water and a little bit of, let's see if you guys can see better this way. No, that's even more horrible. But get a little bit of that glue off. Last time I forgot some water and I was using just a normal rag. And so you get the bulk off, that's great. But if you want to get a lot of that fine glue off so you don't have to do as much sanding later, definitely some water. And somebody did bring that up the last time. And I was like, yep, you are totally right. I'm going to have a tough time getting this glue off later. So let me do my little weights here and just get this excess glue that is going blit along the sides. There, that should give us, you know, mostly a tabletop that's not going to rock. And I know you guys can't see, you know, any of that, but let me, Dave Beck has a good call as it dries to put wax paper under it so it doesn't stick itself to the, you know, to the thing. But I don't think we have all that much excess off the other side. Oh, yes, we do. Oh. Actually, that doesn't look bad at all. Nice call, Dave, but I'll just do a quick wipe and then I can sand it. But yeah, most of the glue came out the other side, which is awesome. That's like, when does that happen, people? Like, never. So I'm going to put you back over here and stop fiddling with you so you can actually glue correctly. That should be enough, and you guys can see that, and that should be enough out of the way. So let's build our table legs. Yes, table legs. So I have a couple pieces here, and let me move my glue nastiness out of the way here. And these will kind of sit underneath the table. So we're going to pretend that my workbench is our tabletop and it's flipped upside down. And Michael's saying, do you have different wood glues for different projects because of drying time, etc., or pretty much stick with the one or two types? Yes, there's different glues will give you different drying times, great for different like materials and different purposes. Me, I just been using, you know, the same original recipe glue. I have a gallon of it, so I figure, you know, less storage. So I've been using that one for everything, and so far it's worked out great. But yes, there are different glues for different purposes. I just haven't really needed to go that far quite yet. So I have these little picnic table legs that can go like this and like this. And of course, Wrench Army members, if this build works out, I will, I know I remember the dimensions of all these, so I will pass those on to you. And so we have our little picnic table up here, and it'll sit like that. These ends are cut at setting your miter saw at 30 degrees for all of these. And so this will sit like this, and our tabletop will be on top of it. So it'll be, you know, like that, like little picnic legs. So we can start kind of gluing this situation here together for each leg, like that and like that. And I have this part here matching up with this part there. And so long as they sit flush. So something like that. So let's get to gluing. And I'm also going to, for the interest of time and moving this along, I will use a brad nail on each end. Now this is 1/4 inch material, so 2 will be a 1/2 inch. The smaller brad nails I could find, you know, readily available is 3/4 inch. So they're going to be slightly long. So I will snip them on the other side. Now you can build this entire project entirely out of glue. You don't have to use any nails. Of course, nails will strengthen it. And you know, if you don't have a brad nailer, you can always use little finishing nails with a hammer. Although with smaller projects, sometimes it's really tough to be able to hammer, you know, have that swing space for your hammer. So that's why I'm going to use a brad nailer, just to kind of make our lives easier and stop putting my big old head in front of your guys' view. That would be nice as well. So what I'm doing is just aligning the legs and kind of leaving them to tacky up just a little bit with the glue before we hit it with the brad nailer, and I can get the other one ready. That way they're kind of ready to go. And same deal, I'm going to move him kind of up here. And he all got all jacked up. Let me unjack him up. Because we don't want our table to be wobbly or anything. And I thought for a robot, maybe it might be fun. Oh, I was already wrong. It might be fun to put him on some kind of platform, like a float in a parade. So perhaps like cover it in AstroTurf, you know, so it looks like the picnic table is sitting on top of like a, you know, grass or something like that. I thought that might be kind of fun. We can do a little bit of terrain building, but I think thinking ahead to, I'm doing this wrong. It's got to be like this. Already getting it wrong. 2 different table legs. They'd be all different lengths and my table's all jacked up. It's that picnic table no one wants to sit at because no matter how you arrange the rocks underneath the legs, it still wobbles. That is a Rachel built picnic table right there. If you ever sit on one and you just can't get it to unwobble, you know Rachel done been here. You know, she built this table. So it's all wobbling. All right. So that's looking pretty good. And so let's put a couple brad nails through it. Now, of course, it's going to go into the table a little bit, but we should be able to pull it out and snip the other side of it. So where is my nailer? Oh, it's down here. So the compressor is going to pop on. It's quite noisy and annoying. And, so watch your mics. So let me just bring this compressor closer to me. We're done with this, so I'm just going to unplug it and put it where I can step on it real easily. All right, here's the brad nailer. And I'm going to get him hooked up. There we go, and let me bring the compressor. This tiny compressor, but hey, it does the job. Much, much closer to me. Okay, it's about to get loud. I'm getting close to the mic so you guys can actually hear me, but that's just got to fill up with air a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to make sure that our legs is as aligned as we possibly can get them. So feeling good. And we can use this to kind of help us out. Some peace and quiet for a little bit. And then Michael was saying, glad you showed us your compressor. That was my next question. Compact is good. Yes, I wish I could have a much bigger one in here, but it does take up space. And so far, yes, that one you gotta wait. You gotta wait till it fills up with air. But at the end of the day, it eventually gets the job done. Now, maybe I underestimated the strength of these brad nails. Let me see if I can get some kind of spatula situation underneath here. And I'm going to use wood blocks for this next one so I don't end up in the same predicament. Get my big old head in the way. want to nail my legs to the table. I mean, I knew I was going to nail my legs to the table, but this is very nailed to the table. And this is 3/8 inch, no, much more than that. So it's not like I can hammer them out from the other side. So what I'm going to do is keep prying at it, right? Let's try and get these little legs all out. And, oh, there we go. Yay! Yay! All right, I will do this in a much smarter manner the next time for the next legs. So, and I'm going real slow as not to, you know. So that's how much it went through. Not a lot, you know, we definitely got it off, no problem. But that's kind of the smallest nails I could find. And we can all sit here and watch glue dry, but I figure, you know, it's a little imperfect, but it keeps the project moving forward. So with this, I'm going to put my hand over it or not. Maybe this sandpaper, only because sometimes these things fly. And these will be pretty hidden underneath the table, so they should be fine. And so once I build this one, I may, if I like the dimensions and I find that it works out really well, I may build another one, because I bought a 4-foot board of 1/4 inch by 6 inch, that's the width, by 4 feet long piece. And it costs about $7. And you can build an entire picnic table for that. So I got an extra piece so I can build an extra one and let glue dry at my leisure, right? So here's our next piece, and let's find a much better way to do this. Maybe I can lay this little guy here, and maybe lay this little guy here, some scrap, and see if we can do this in a much better way, or flip this over and do it that way. Although this is the front of our thing. So that might be a little bit easier. So it's about to get loud in here again. It's right here in my face. All right, so. Oh, wait a minute, I don't want to put that on top. Let's do this. There we go. All right, much easier. Much easier doing it that way, where it's not sticking on the table, but heck, we live and we learn, right? So the only thing I have to be careful of is, right here, just these little pricklies right here. I cut them down as short as possible, but they're still sticking out just a little bit. But again, if you find very tiny finishing nails, you know, you can hammer away at them. Once the project starts coming together, that starts to get a little bit difficult because you don't have that like swing radius to be able to do it. So let me go ahead and cut these guys off. And I'm trying to cut them as flush as possible. Definitely don't want these flying in my eyeball. And Don Stricker is saying, practice makes perfect. And Merlin is saying, nice to see with your goggles on this time, right? Yeah, you just sit there moving the project forward and you're like, oh, wait, I'm doing something dangerous, you know? Quit chit-chatting and focus. So I'm going to try and get these slightly more flush here. A little tougher to get it flush, but it's going. And that one's pretty flush, and that one. All right, so we have picnic table legs. Awesome. I'm gonna put these guys aside. And what else do we have to put here? Actually, we might need our picnic table legs. and they kind of go like this. And let's see if I can back you guys out. Whoop, back you guys out just a little bit so you see what the heck is going on. So we have our picnic table legs like that. Now, the table is upside down, and of course, as we put our condiments, we need some kind of stopper here, or else the condiments will just fly right through the hole. So, I think this is the board that I cut out. Oh, one moment. Quiet down, that's our ghost compressor. So this board is our original 6-inch board. This is the 1/4 inch by 6 inch by 4. But again, a 6-inch board is actually 5.5 inches. So we can go ahead and center this guy on here. Just like that. And we can go ahead and glue him. Now, of course, there's a little natural imperfection there. So I'm going to put him on the bottom, put him on the bottom. And we have a new member. Welcome, Michael, to the Wrench Army. So like I said, the Wrench Army members get their own special stream every Wednesday where we are building a plasma ball out of a regular old light bulb. And then we are going to convert it into a dragon lamp. So Michael, if you have not seen those videos, definitely, definitely check them out. And Michael, as a supporter, you have access to all of the backlog of all of our projects. So you can kind of like catch up as to where we are and see some of the madness that has ensued. And I expect a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking from you. I do it all the time to myself. That's actually what our project plans are, is myself Monday morning quarterbacking to myself. Yes. Once you kind of figure out what works and what doesn't, then you can make some plans that normal people can follow, that don't include stapling projects to your workbench, as fun as that is. So now that that's pretty tight on there, I'm going to attempt to put in a couple brad nails. Now, we don't have to worry as much about the nails going through because this piece is vertical. So it's not as, it's not going to be so bad. And to make sure it's centered, I'm using a high-tech way of measuring, which is the tippies of the finger measure. If it feels kind of like the same on either side, we good, So I'm going to hold this. I'm going to fire up the compressor again. It's about to get a bit loud, and maybe this view is better for you guys right there. If I just kind of turn it this way, you guys can see what the heck is going on. All right. Just letting it tacky up a little bit, just so it holds its form, and making sure there's not a lot of wiggle so we know our table is straight, like the legs aren't crooked or anything like that. Let me move our bench seats out of the way. So I'm firing this up. It's about to get loud. Right, so we have a little bit of a little tray there, to keep our condiments. And this I'm going to let glue up just a little bit. And Dave, yes, Dave has totally reminded me to remind you guys to definitely join our Discord. Our Discord is where we chat in between streams, when we throw ideas at each other and we kind of pitch different ideas for other projects. So Discord links, if you're watching on YouTube, is at the bottom of the description. If you're watching on Facebook, it's on the description as well, which is like, I think it's up here, we're here. And then for Twitch, there's a panel that you can click that'll take you right to Discord. Totally free. It's like a live chat type of forum with a whole bunch of different topics. So one thing I realized I did wrong was attach this tray to this portion of the legs rather than to more like down here on the legs, which is kind of what I had planned to do in my head. But now I don't think I can pry this apart without completely wrecking it. It's like, check yourself before you wreck yourself. And I just wrecked myself, although this might work a little bit better, come to think of it. But let's see how easily if I can pry this apart. Probably not. This is kind of like a fortuitous, because I think this is going to give us, one of the problems I was having was that the table was not very rigid. And I think this is going to be pretty good with that. So let's leave this for now, because I think we totally inadvertently created, I don't remember whose idea it was, the ice tray. We totally, I think, created an ice tray. And oh, do I have a scrap piece? Yes. So we can house the ice. Oh, I need one more scrap piece to put over here, which we can do afterwards. So look, guys, we already have the formation of a tray to put ice, and we can make some kind of plastic or foil container. Really? So I think like the gods were like guiding me to do this wrong on purpose, because I think we just made our ice tray out of it. I'm just seeing where my water is, so that way I can get rid of some of this excess glue. And let me show you guys this like nastiness glue going on. And Merlin is saying fingertips are often better to judge something than a ruler. You know what? I find that quite indeed. I find that to be very, very true. All right. So Michael is saying woot woot. And Dawn is saying practice makes perfect. That thing just loves kicking itself on, even though you physically turn the lever off, like you completely turn the machine off and it magically turns on. So we've used this compressor a couple times and very quickly found that we all believe it's probably haunted. You know, it's probably haunted. All right, so this has become our new kind of tray situation, our new ice tray situation, because you can put like cold shrimp, cold cocktail sauce, which is nice to have cold. So this will be optional as to whether you can use this tray. Now, that means I am short a tray. I need another tray like this in order to put like down here, and I believe just to stabilize the legs. And maybe I don't need a whole tray. Maybe I just need like a couple of sticks so the legs aren't so wiggly wobbly. But let's see how this works out. And now we have some bottom rungs like this. And this will certainly help stabilize a little bit here. And let me move this out of the way. This is a disaster waiting to happen. And so we have our tabletop here, and our little benches will go on top. So it's kind of like a little picnic table situation going on there. So let's figure out like how tall, you know, or how far up we want it. So I'm thinking something like that looks pretty nice. And I'll turn it this way for us to staple. But alas, let us not make the same mistake. I'm gonna build some kind of contraption here for us to be able to staple safely and not staple through the table like I did the last time. So that's looking pretty good there. And wow, that's really tough to see what the heck is going on in this view. And Dave Beck is saying, I think they're gremlins in the compressor, probably. Michael Duran is saying, hello, Rachel from Rhode Island. Miss you on AGG. Yeah, that was like a blast, you know. But listen, we weren't building, you know, robot picnic tables, you know, on that show. But we were building some very, very cool cars. I am not going to lie. It was awesome. All right, so I think right about here and here is where we'll put this thing, and I'll slide it around, and I guess we'll kind of actually measure this thing. So this is kind of like 3/4 inches and 3/4 inches. Or maybe we can just use something like this. Oh wow, that's perfect. Let's just use that as a guide. And I'm going to let this tacky up just a little bit and push down on it so it doesn't slide around so much. Now, the original idea was to put this resting against here rather than up here. But that might have solved our tray idea. And one thing we can do is where the 3 holes are, we can actually cut an access panel down here to put our deeper, our deeper sauces, and leave this shallow end for the sauces that need chilling, like cocktail sauce and things like that. There, that should be good enough. Now I'm going to position this in a way that we're not going to go through the table this time. And I'm going to fire up the compressor. It's going to get a little obnoxious here. Same thing on the other side. And Carl James saying maybe less of a chance of getting bit by a zombie on Facebook than AGG. Most indeed. That was one of my favorite episodes, was when we did a zombie truck build. Oh my gosh. I had too much fun. I don't know if that's like possible, but yeah, I had way too much fun. All right, we're about here. And here. We'll slide it around as needed. Am I doing, yep. This is a little under 3/4 inch, so let that, sliding around, let that tacky up a bit. And I'm eyeballing, for length and making sure it's mostly aligned. And now I'm gonna remove our little cheater and do just for giggles. Little measurement, yep, that's right on. I'm gonna put him back. Let it set up. A little bit less boring than watching paint dry, but I need to move him back now so that way I don't staple him to the seat. So, get a little bit of this glue off with my wet rag. That way the stain takes nicely. If you ever try to stain it, it stains horribly over glue. And I learned that with my first beginning projects. I thought, oh, this looks terrible. And I mistakenly kept putting more stain on it, thinking like it was going to fix the problem. No, it does not fix the problem. It just looks the same, bad. So here's our picnic table. And the one thing that he has in his design is his support bar for his condiments, his or her, whoever made this, is up high, kind of like ours is right here. So it makes the condiments sit up higher, which might be a little bit easier to grab, but he uses just that one little bar. The fact that I've made mine a tray might be fortuitous because we can also use it as an ice tray, and I can cut 2 little pieces like this, and see this one's overly long, and just kind of put him like this underneath the table and cut another one like that. They're slightly long, but we'll still be able to fit them in there after we put the tabletop, so we can still continue to mock this up. So my original idea was not to have this platform here. It's actually to have it resting on this bottom platform here, making it deeper. Now that wouldn't really help with our cold situation, especially if you put like little cocktail cups and things for people to dip their shrimp in. So I'm actually gonna get rid of some of these vampires right here. Look at these, I forgot about these guys. So let me trim these vampire teeth here before they suck my blood. And I'm just using this rag to kind of capture the little vampire teeth as they get snipped off. All right, same thing on the other side. And 2 more. Probably should get to better, sharper little cutters. There we go. So all the vampire teeth are trimmed down. Still, I'm using care to kind of handle this situation right here, but it's looking pretty good. It's looking rather picnic table-esque. I don't know, what would you guys say? And we'll see how this tray, works out. So I think, oh, we're not done. Let's put our little seats on, right? Like, how are these people gonna sit? They need a place to sit, so we can put this guy like this and this guy like this. There we go, that looks pretty nice. Yeah, let's get these guys in place. And I'm going to use my eyeball technology here, measuring technology, to get this going. And these guys will be hidden, little vampire teeth coming out. They're trimmed up, but you can still kind of see them. So I'm going to just do a little bit of glue here and a little bit of glue here. So in order to build this, so long as you have patience, you don't necessarily, ooh, I just totally globbed that. You don't have to, have a brad nailer or nail this together. You can just build it a little bit at a time and just allow the glue to set up and dry and then move on to the next step. But again, I am totally mean and I am depriving you guys of being able to watch glue dry and all the fun that is. So, looking pretty good. Our little picnic table. We just need a picnic table top. Just giving this a little bit of firmness. And then we'll hit it with a brad nailer. And here we don't have to worry about the brad nail stapling to anything, because our little support beams there are pretty thick. And then we'll clean up all that glue there. So, I don't know what you guys think. Is this too big for a robot? We still have to put the tabletop on, which is going to be kind of big. But I don't know. Still big for a robot? I'm not sure. Let's see what the tabletop is before I staple these in place to make sure they don't wind up underneath the table. So this should be tacky enough for us to kind of play around with. And that's looking pretty good. I can maybe move the seats. See how the seats are tucked all the way in? So maybe if I move them out just like that a little bit, now we can actually have seats that we can, sit upon. Makes a lot more sense, I think. There we go. So that's looking pretty good. And you see our supports. So we can put our different condiments like that. We can have them on ice with this table here. So I think we're doing pretty good. And I think this was like Bob Ross says, there are no mistakes. There are only happy little surprises. So we actually added some functionality to our little picnic table here, Condiment Caddy. So let's get this nailed together now that it's ready to go. So we decided that moving these all the way out, perhaps a little bit further out. And I'm using my fingertip technology here to get it nice and measured up. So it's going to get a little loud. Guys could probably see a little bit better on this side. Gonna move the table leg out a little bit. Finger measuring technology. Feeling pretty even to me. right, let's see if that stays shut there for a little bit. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way. All right. My little prior here. Hopefully we don't need that again. Prying projects off the table. Didn't expect that to happen. But, you know, this is live. You just gotta go with the flow. Go with the flow. And sometimes we end up having a plan. I end up messing it up, and we end up with a much better project sometimes. So yes, Michael mentioned, I don't see the table wobbling, so the legs must be level. It's not wobbling. Nice. I think it was sitting on one of the little vampire teeth before, so it was wobbling, but let me make sure it's not sitting on anything. And yeah, success. If anything, guys, we got a level table, and that's a huge thing for me. I am not gonna lie. So I'm just cleaning off some of this glue here to make my life a ton easier later on. I mean, look at that, and look at, ooh, it just went bleh, out. But that's also how you know you have a nice tight seam, is when the glue just blehs out. Like the Transylvania movie, bleh, 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 bleh. Or the cartoon, if you guys have ever seen that. I like those little cartoons, they're awesome. All right, a little bit more water here just to really dilute down the glue and get it off. So I'm gonna get the excess off with the dry end and then get the rest with this wet. And Dave Beck saying, winning! Yes, we are definitely winning. So we'll see how our first little kind of prototype picnic table goes and see room for improvement and see, you know, is it enough that we should build another one, or if we should continue with this one. But then what I do in the plans is I update the plans to the better design, so you guys can already be building the nicer design rather than build it wrong. So that's what I do. I built it wrong for you so you guys can see how to build it correctly. So this is looking pretty good, guys. Let's get the tabletop on here now, and let's see a better view for you guys to see some tabletop action. I can bring this closer to you and maybe turn it sideways like that. All right, let's get this tabletop. It's delicately glued together, but just tacked up enough for us to see. And I'm wondering if it's best for us to do this upside down. Makes it a little bit tougher to nail in. But I think I'm not going to nail this one. I'm just going to let it glue. Because if you've noticed with my nail gun, it's a nail and stapler gun in one. So what it tends to do is no matter if you're nailing or stapling, it makes a staple mark in your wood piece. So that's one of the prices you pay. Now, if you adjust the pressure just right, you can get it to minimize that staple indentation, but it never really goes away. So on finished surfaces like that, I always try and nail from the back side, which is a little bit tougher in this case. So what I may end up doing is just gluing the tabletop on and leaving it glued, not nailing it down. So we're gonna try and seat it as best as possible. So let's start by gluing up our little edge here. And again, we'll have enough access on either side to close up these ends here so we can make some kind of tray. And I may only close up one end, so there's a way that we can take the ice out if need be. Or maybe one of the sides can be on a hinge, so we can hinge it and remove the ice tray that way. So there's a couple different ways to slice it. So I'm going to actually get down low, low, low for this. And, you know, because I don't have my woods oriented with the proper colors, you can definitely see a seam mark here. But I don't know, I personally like it. I'm okay with it. So I measured this such that these supports right here that I'm pointing to just flush up with these holes. And man, if they aren't flush. So if anything, this worked out pretty well. And it's kind of tough to sometimes just go cutting pieces without building it because you need to make adjustments as you work along. So sometimes, you know, for the prototype, things might not fit 100%. All I'm doing is turning it this way like this for you guys to make sure that that tabletop, knock that off. Make sure that that tabletop is, you know, even. Like it's not overhanging one way or the other. And so what I'm gonna do is measure, and I think I will flip it because the weight of the table will keep it straight. You know, so that way the tabletop doesn't, you know, shift around. So David is saying, listen, zebra wood, much more exotic. So I'm going to have to agree with him on that one. Merlin is saying, nicely done. So got our haunted compressor. The switch is off. I swear, it just, you know, wants to keep coming back on. And I've always had this happening. So this is 1.5 inches on this side. And 1.5 inches on this side. It could probably use a tiny bit more space. So I'm just going to, oh no, I moved it too much. All right, so 1.5 inches. Perfecto, and 1.5 inches. Yes, and then let's measure the other side. Nice. Very good. So I'm just gonna shimmy this butt this way. It just needs to shimmy a tiny bit. And one more time. You guys might want to screenshot this. Rachel's actually measuring. This never happens. So I just kind of eyeball everything. So that's looking pretty good. And now that it's centered, I'm going to turn it over one more time because I want to make sure that there's no overhang here. So yes. That's looking pretty good. I had cut these pieces on the inside so you can see this inside support flush with the very edge of the hole. So everything is working out really well. We can put our condiments. My only probably complaint and how I would do this different in the future. Let's see if I can get myself out of here for a second for you guys to see. This is an awesome condiment caddy. We can put the more rectangular shaped condiments here. So the only thing that I would really change about this thing is our ice tray that ended up being our ice tray. So see how shallow that is? It doesn't allow much depth for the bottle to really sit down in there. The original idea was to put that tray sitting on here, which means the bottle was going to go way further down. But in retrospect, that might not be so bad. Having it down here, especially for shorter bottles, only leaves the very top of the bottle here to grab onto. So having the bottle sit higher might be good because they're just so much easier to grab off. And especially if you have this moving down the table, you know, having to lift a bottle out might topple your robot. So having everything shallow placed might actually be a good thing because it makes it so much easier to remove. Also, it leaves you an area here where you can put ice, where we can either close up these sides here, or there are shallow aluminum trays that you can just slip into here, you know, or cut the top of one off, slip it in here, have your ice, so you can put your cocktail sauce. I love a good green goddess sauce or a mustard, like one of those white creamy mustard sauces for your seafood. This can also be a, you know, a breakfast caddy. In that, you can put your bottle of syrup here. On this side, you can put some strawberries, whipped cream, you know, all of your amazing deliciousness, butter, everything delicious that goes on pancakes. So this is like a multi-purpose caddy. So I don't know, guys. I'm thinking I'm liking this. You know, maybe second time around I'd make a few modifications, but I think something like this is a go for our robot. Now the next step is to build the robotic components, or order the robotic components, build it, do the code. We're going to be using infrared sensors, and we're going to be using the same line following robot technology that a lot of projects use. It's a fun, simple first robotics project that a lot of people tackle, but it also has real life implications. If you look at Amazon or a lot of these big distribution houses, you see these warehouses with big black lines, like in a circle or in a path, much like IKEA, you know, with the arrows that tells you where to go, because I can totally get lost in IKEA. So what the robot does is identify this line and follows it. And so what in essence you can do is draw a shallow oval around your table. Not draw, but use like a black masking tape or a black electrical tape and make any path you want around your table. You know, you can heck even build a ramp so it goes from table to table, you know, with a piece of plywood. But anyways, it'll follow this ramp. And what we're going to do to this is add 2 infrared sensors on either side, and it'll sense where the line is. So obviously you want the line to be in the middle. So if the robot veers off course, this sensor will say, oh, we're hitting the line, and it'll adjust itself, you know, and vice versa. So it'll stay within that line. And so this caddy will just go around the table. People pick up what they want. People put back, you know, when they're done. The putting back is the most important thing, more than the taking, right? So after that, for next week, that's what we're going to do. And I think we can either try to attach some wheels to these legs and hide the electronics on our base down here, just hide all the electronics. Or we can put it on a, because this is so shallow, we can put it on a platform and cover it. You know, I was saying with AstroTurf because I think it would be fun, and hide the electronics in there and then have it rove around like that. So as always, these project ideas all come from you guys. So chime in the comments, hop on Discord. Sometimes you remember these things at midnight and you're like, I got to get on Discord and tell Rachel to do this. So throw in your ideas as to whether you want to see this on a platform like AstroTurf platform, if we want to try and attach the wheels directly on it. And next week, we're actually going to be turning this thing into a robot. So very exciting. Merlin is saying, nicely done. Beth Merle is saying, great project today. Thank you. KM is saying, very cool. So hope you guys join me next week. Every Monday is our free public live stream. Every Wednesday is our Wrench Army only exclusive live stream, which we're building our plasma ball dragon lamp. And we're going to be wrapping up this project soon, and then we have to put it to the test. So get on Discord, post your most delicious meat recipes, because, you know, we're going to have it all out during a live stream. Carl James is saying, love it. So guys, I will catch you next week. It's Monday, so you know you can rock the rest of the week, because we got a picnic table condiment caddy, right? No other way to rock the week. See you guys.